The David Warne, Mitchell Johnson saga blew up yesterday. Australia's named its 14-man squad for the first test against Pakistan. And I think it's important we get both sides of the perspective here. So you've got Mitchell Johnson, who's written an article for the West Australian yesterday, quite an inflammatory article, one that I personally didn't agree with, but nevertheless he's got the right to voice his opinion, given he played Test cricket for Australia.
Indeed.
And then the David Warne angle. Now, clearly David Warner's preparing to play Test cricket. He's resting up as he should after a great World Cup win. But James Erskine is a high-profile player agent. He's the chairman of Sports and Entertainment, which also looks after the likes of Todd Woodbridge, Ian Thorpe, Sam Stoser, George Gregan, and many others. And in the past, he's been outspoken about Sandpaper Gate, Bryce. He claimed many others knew the Aussies were illegally altering the condition of the ball. He's also been a fierce, critic of Cricket Australia at certain times. And Bryce, he's also David Warner's manager and close confidant. James, thanks for joining us on Sports Day. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hi, guys. Hi, Tom. Hi, Bryce.
James, there's plenty to go here, plenty of directions we can go here. But the first question I have for you is, have you spoken to David Warne about Mitchell Johnson's article yesterday? And if so, what did he say?
I haven't spoken to him, and quite frankly, it would not be on his radar or really my radar. It wasn't until I actually got a note from you, that I actually started reading it. I mean, look, Mitchell Johnson was a fine player, and represented Australia. I think got 300 and over 313 Test wickets, and he's entitled to his opinion. But at the end of the day, what surprises me is all these ex-cricketers who basically have a crack at the current lot. I mean, you would never get that happening in golf, where Arnold Palmer was criticising, Nick Faldo, or whether, Chrissy Evert would have a crack at somebody else, who was currently playing. And I think it's a bit sad in a way. I mean, I don't think... I'm sure they have an opinion, but I think it's to get a headline. And my Black Labrador could work out that, who are the contenders to basically take the spot. I mean, there's Cameron Bancroft, there's Matthew Renshaw, there's Marcus Harris. I mean, collectively, they have averages of, in the mid-20s. I think the highest is 29 and the lowest is 25. And, David Warner's played 109 Test matches and, got an average of 44, scored 44.4, got over 8,500 runs. So if anyone listening thought that David Warne wanted to play Test cricket for Australia, if he didn't think he was up to it, then they're wrong. He's been a battler all his life. He's a guy from the wrong side of the tracks. He's a guy that's, gone and scraped a living and gone and done this and been very successful at it. But he doesn't want a swan song. He thinks he's the best guy for the job. And I think the figures show it. But, I think if he goes and gets 2 ducks in the first Test match, they'll drop him. But, he won't.
So, James, you say he doesn't want a swan song, but he said a long way out that he'd like to play these 3 tests and retire after Sydney. I mean, if that's not a swan song, what is it?
Well, it's not a swan song. He's just saying, I'm going to put a date when I'm going to retire.
Yep.
I mean, it's a bit like saying, it's the bank telling you at 65 you've got to retire or something. He's just turned around and said, look, and the real reason, to be honest, is the amount of time he spends away from his family. He's been away, 6 out of the last 7 months from his family. And he still wants to carry on playing, 2020 and one-day cricket. In fact, he said to me the other day that he'd like to play in the 2027, World Cup. Well, what is he? He'll be 41 then. So he's doing a Bradman. Look, the facts will come out. Are you good enough to play or not good enough to play? I mean, he'd had a pretty good World Cup. He has his last Test matches haven't been the best in the thing. But tell me somebody who can walk in there and replace him. He has a strike rate of 70. In fact, his averages on Test matches are almost as good as his one day. It's like 44 to 46 or something.
James,
But,
James,
I'm just at lost.
Yeah, Thanks for making the time, James. I think it's important that both sides are heard. It's encouraging that he's driven and still lit up by playing cricket for Australia, given all he has been through. I think that's a real positive. Do you feel, though, that the bond between, I guess, the current players and the past players is completely broken on the basis of these types of attacks?
I don't think that's completely broken. I don't think it's completely broken. And in fact, I think David takes certain people's advice who have senior players in the past very seriously. He had a very good relationship with Warne, for example. I just think at the end of the day, what is the point if you're a really good player? I mean, Mitchell Johnson wasn't a great player, but he's a really good player. I mean, he's right up there. I mean, he got Bob Willis, Lance Gibbs, people like that, Truman even, Brett Lee, Alan Donald got sort of the same type number of wickets. And I can remember, Mitchell being an absolute hero for Australia and, everyone applauding him. But there's no need to have a crack. I mean, if he wants to be a selector, put his name up to be a selector. But let the selectors do their job. Let Bailey do his job. I mean, I'm not going to second guess him. David Warner's not going to second guess him. So I don't see the point of having, what I call it's a storm in a teacup, isn't it? Really.
Mm.
And if there was somebody sitting on the sidelines who was an absolute automatic to come in, bring him on. David would say, "Be my guest. I'll give you batting tips." But the fact of the matter is there isn't. I don't know how many. I mean, I'm guessing, but I won't be far out. But I mean, I think between Marcus, Harris, and Renshaw on Bancroft, they probably got a total of 1,500 runs between them.
Yeah, certainly a deep resume that Davey's got. I'm interested in the conversation between the selectors, and it appears that the communication is a whole lot better between the selection group and the current players, and even the players that are outside that Australian Test team playing domestic cricket. What's been the discussions with Davey about how he wants to complete his career? Have those discussions gone on between George Bailey and Davey about when the end might be?
I think, everybody's, I think David's made it sort of clear what he would like to do. That doesn't mean to say he's going to get it.
Mm.
It's a bit like, turning around and saying, yeah, I'd like to get a Positano on Thursday, but it doesn't mean he's going to go. I mean, so the fact of the matter is that, in the perfect world, that's what it would do. But if he didn't think he was up for the job, he wouldn't do it. I mean, name me somebody who's fitter than David Warne on that cricket team. I mean, just name me somebody.
Well, no one's fielding better than him at the moment.
Mm.
And again, he puts his heart and soul into it, but he doesn't want to go and play if he doesn't think he's going to make a goose of himself. And when he's gotten written off before, then he went and scored 200 runs. I mean, I just think this is like reminds me of backseat drivers. They're bloody annoying, and quite frankly, we don't need it.
So Mitchell Johnson's a backseat driver.
Yeah, he's just basically he is basically making comments that I think are incendiary, and and again, come up with an alternative solution, pal.
Well, Mitch,
his solution doesn't. He hasn't come up with a solution. He's just saying that David's calling his own swan song. That isn't true.
Mm.
David has said, in the perfect world, this is what I'd like to do. He does change his mind. He's now said he'd like to carry on playing other forms of the game for longer than we thought. And I'm sure Cricket Australia are going to say, "Oh, thank God for that." If he's good enough, if he's good enough to play 2020 and 50 over cricket, fantastic.
So 2013,
he's got three young girls, and he doesn't want to spend 8 months a year playing cricket away from them.
2013-14 was an amazing Ashes win, 5-0, and Mitchell Johnson was a key part of that, and so was David Warne. 2015 was an incredible ODI World Cup victory, and both players were in the same change room. Bryce asked you before about fracturing, but were you aware of any underlying tension between the two? Because This article,
I don't think there's an underlying tension.
But this article was personal. Like, he brought up sandpaper, he brought up Cape Town. He didn't just speak about David Warner's stats. He spoke about the scandal 5 years ago.
He's ignorant. He's ignorant because if he actually thinks that 3 people basically did the sandpaper cake, then he should go and go to the moon for a holiday. I mean, it's just a joke. So first of all, he's got to get his I mean, no one thought sandpaper cake was great. I mean, it's not, but everyone's past that and gone over it. David, and then I mean, he's admitted he was at fault, but there's so many. They weren't just 3 people; so many other people were at fault, and we've got past that. And the general public, are completely fed up about it. I'm actually fed up about it.
Yeah.
It was not Australia's finest day.
No,
but let's all grow up and get on with it.
Yeah,
the fact of the matter is that this team is being liked again under Pat Cummins. This team's getting liked again. It was an amazing win in India. If they, you'd have given them 1 in 10 chance of winning that final, or maybe 2 out of 10 winning the final. And at the end of the day, they played a blinder. The fielding, the captaincy, the bowling changes, unbelievable innings by head that will go down in the history books. And so, let's think of all the positive. Why is everybody in cricket suddenly the glass is half empty? It's bollocks.
Well, it's been like that for a while.
Australia, it has. I mean, look, there's no doubt about it that, I think since Ponting was captain, I think that the Australian cricket team, was not admired. It wasn't, it wasn't held in the highest esteem. And then, obviously it got worse in South Africa. But,
James,
now...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, James, I've just got to, by way of opinion, I think part of the reason that people are so frustrated with what happened in Cape Town in 2018 is because we don't know all the answers. Like, you say what many others say, and that more than 3 people knew, yet we don't know who those people are and what they knew. So my question, David Warner's going to release a book at some stage. Will we get all the answers in that book?
I don't know. You know what? It's got to the stage where it's almost like, spies in World War II. Do you really need to know what went on? I mean, I think that I honestly do believe, you've also got to remember that when you're a high-level sportsman, you have 30 or 40 years after you finish playing, at least 30, where you have to make a living. And in order to make a good living, you have to be respected. You have to basically be good at other things, and you basically have to, graft out a living for yourself. And it's very hard being an ex-sportsman. I mean, lots of them get depression, fall by the wayside, don't make the right decisions. So, but one of the things that you have to do if you become a star in your lifetime, which, if someone had Mitchell's career, you'd be happy if your son played 1 test match and got 1 wicket. Here's a bloke who's played 70-odd test matches or more, got 313 wickets. So he's a complete star. But the fact of the matter is that you've got to have respect, and you have to have respect on an ongoing basis. Why was Arnold Palmer so popular? Because he had so much respect. Why was, Bjorn Borg so popular? Because he had so much respect. Why was Shane Warne, so popular? Well, basically everyone wanted to be Shane Warne. He probably broke the mold.
Yeah. On Shane Warne, can we just change tack for 1 second? We've got to let you go because we've got to get to an ad break. And Adam Crosswaite's in the studio as well.
You don't need ads.
The Shane Warne's legacy. So this amazing fundraising organisation that's been set up by his family, and you're heavily involved as well. Can you tell us about it? Because I understand there's going to be some activations around Boxing Day as well.
Well, I think first of all, I'll let the announcement be the announcements. But the idea was that the family and the children and Keith, the father, really wanted to do something because he died of a heart attack, and Shane Warne didn't even have a GP. So at the end of the day, he was never really ill, and if he was injured, it was always something to do with a shoulder or wrist or whatever it might be, and he was looked after by Cricket Australia. So what we're trying to do is we're not actually raising any money at the moment. We've actually, through the generosity of Wesfarmers and CSU, a division of Wesfarmers, they are putting up all the funds to do all these tests where in a 4-minute test, you can basically go and get your heart checked and see whether or not you need to take it any further. Go to a GP or sit there and we'll go and get an ambulance for you if you're that bad. So I think what we're trying to do is, as you know, Warne was very patient. He wasn't somebody who was basically, so we want something, he didn't wait around for things. So we want something that is instantaneous, it's easy to get to, and it costs everybody nothing. It just takes 4 minutes of your time. So I would urge people's children and grandchildren to turn around to their folks and say, come on, go and get the test, see if you're okay, bang, bang, bang. And, that's the way we want to try and save lives. In the future, I'm sure we will be raising funds and doing other things. But, this is something we want to under-promise and over-deliver. It's something the family and the children really want to do, and it's free. And I think that's very refreshing.
And the website is www.sisuhealthgroup, so SISU healthgroup.com/Shane Warne Legacy Heart Test. Hey, James, I could talk to you all day, but we've got to let you go. We really appreciate your time. Thank you for your honesty, your transparency, your forthrightness, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much.
That's James Erskine, the manager of David Warne, former manager of Shane Warne, and pretty strong stuff, Bryce.
Yeah, it is.
What did you take out of it?
That Dave Warne wants to play a lot longer in the white ball game, that he knows that it comes down to selection, and so he's just living the life as a test cricketer. He wants, ideally, in an ideal world, to finish at that Sydney test, but form permitting, if he scores 2 ducks, James doesn't think he will, but 2 ducks, and he might find himself not making it there.
Calling Mitch Johnson a backseat driver I thought was quite interesting as well, and just a good test cricketer, not a great test cricketer. But anyway, we really appreciate James' time, so I'd have him on. The text machine is lit up. It's fair to say that not everyone loves David Warne, but my view on David Warne is that he's paid the price. He had 12 months off. He's lost his leadership for his career, and he has done everything right since then in terms of the way he's carried himself to try to prove himself as a role model for others. I mean, I don't think we can, in my view, we can't hold what happened in Cape Town 2018 against him forever. But equally, I would like to know who else knew. And I will consistently say that until we know.